Hi, this is Professor Bobo, and this is for week 5, and we're talking about being a culturally responsive school counselor. So, how do we go about being a culturally responsive teacher, school counselor? It's important that we advocate for all students, that we, as school counselors, have an ethical and professional responsibility to serve all students and advocate for their needs. We have to continuously build our toolbox and understand effectively how to address the needs of all of our diverse populations. In this course, we've been studying our historically marginalized populations, and perhaps that is one of the groups at your school or in your future schools that may need support. But we are talking about any um, diverse population group that is at your school site that is not getting the support and equity that they need. We have to be cognizant of our inequities that the students may face and understand our role as we advocate for those particular students. We have to be aware of our biases. In our third week, we took tests on implicit bias. And during that time, you may have felt that some of the assessments were adequate or not adequate. But hopefully, what it did was make sure that you began to think about what are some of your implicit biases and how can we acknowledge them and begin to address them. We won't always know what our students' specific needs are, but it's our responsibility to continue to educate ourselves about how important it is for us to um, understand their cultural experiences, both academically, behaviorally, socially, social emotionally. And we have to take action to ensure their equitable treatment. So I'm gonna go ahead and share with you a video in regards to implicit bias.
As educators, we are all deeply invested in creating positive experiences for our students. However, we now know that no one is immune to holding implicit biases that may adversely affect students, despite our best intentions. These biases can have a huge impact on our students' outcomes. To illustrate, let's explore what the research says about how teachers' perceptions of students' academic achievement is altered by implicit bias by looking at two studies. In the first study, children, accompanied by their caregivers, came into a research lab. Researchers watched and recorded the child's level of imaginative play with a set of toys. Imaginative play was ranked on a 1 to 5 scale from low to high, based on how creative the themes were within the child's pretend play. Additionally, teachers filled out reports about the students, which indicated whether they perceived the student to be prepared for school and the degree of conflict between that student and their peers. Upon examination, researchers found that ratings of imagination-based play differed based on the student's race. For Black students, those with highly imaginative play were rated as less prepared and less accepted by their peers. However, if the student was white, imaginative play was related to positive ratings in the same criteria. Without realizing it, the teachers in the study evaluated the same behavior differently based on the student's race. A second study examined the implicit biases of teachers in culturally diverse schools. A large group of white teachers filled out questionnaires about their experiences with white and Arab students in their classroom. Teachers also took an online assessment to measure whether they had a favorable or unfavorable inclination towards white or Arab students. Don't worry, we'll have more on this assessment in a later module. What's important to know is that the results of the study revealed a connection between positive implicit bias, educators' teaching styles, and engagement with students. In particular, those teachers with a pro-white bias were more likely to take a teach-to-the-test approach with non-white students instead of helping them master the content, compared to their approach with white students. But don't worry, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The researchers also found that by using culturally responsive teaching methods, such as promoting mutual respect and resolving race-related conflicts, teachers were able to mitigate the effects of their biases. This goes to show that even though biases can be automatic and unconscious, they can still be inhibited.
Now, teaching about tolerance to the very youngest children in school. The lessons are certainly not new, but in some communities, they're taking on a new urgency.
So we've been seeing where there are students who have difficulty, teachers and counselors have difficulty with implicit bias and sometimes teach differently to students, but by using culturally responsive techniques, we can mitigate this and move forward. So we talked about the ask a position statements for equity, and that was your last assignment, and you wrote a paper on that. That it is important for school counselors to recognize and distinguish individuals and group differences and strive for equal value for all students and groups. School counselors need to advocate for equitable treatment of all students in schools and in the community. And in addition, an achievement gap or opportunity gap, which we've been discussing for a while, it exists along the socioeconomic lines, the academic, and our ethnic backgrounds. So some students in schools report that there is no adult in the school with whom they feel that they can discuss these issues. And many of these students come from unrepresented social and or cultural groups. Well, these students can't always rely on their parents for college information and instead have to turn to their high school, where the school counselors are in the position to provide and increase access for students. School counselors can also play a role in assisting students in identity development and contributing to their success. So, what does it mean to be a culturally responsive school counselor? It means that school counselors need to identify, recognize, and utilize cultural strengths of students to increase positive outcomes. The implementation only happens after we, as educational professionals, reflect on our beliefs, behaviors, and practices that block our ability to respond constructively and positively. Equity in school requires that we consider a cultural context when we're working with these diverse populations. Multicultural education also is often seen as celebrating diversity while social justice raises awareness of those inequities. So our job is not only to just celebrate the diversity, but also when inequities or biases occur with our colleagues, our administrators, our teachers, that we have to bring awareness to these inequities and be culturally responsive and focus on improving the learning for our diverse learners. And although there are differences in their purposes, all three are essential requirements in the success of school counseling programs. So, in order for our program to be most effective, we need to make sure that we have all three of these in our school comprehensive school counseling program. So we've talked about equity and equality. And so here's some examples of this: sending home tutoring information to parents in the language that they use at home as well as in English, scheduling some of your parent meetings to review grades and interventions with parents at the time that they are available. So being equitable is giving that opportunity to those parents because we have working parents, we have parents that um, can't do things during our normal school hours. So we need to make sure that we're communicating with them, they feel welcomed in our schools, and that they can reach out for help. But we also need to ensure that when we're going over grades and interventions with parents, that we use a opportunity. So at our school, we do phone conferences. We can still do Google Meets for those that are on that are great with technology. And then we also meet them face to face so that they can see things and see papers and see exactly the work that their children are doing in the school. And if it's not at grade level, showing them grade level work so that they get an idea of how to help them at home. So think about these things as I share two more videos with you that do we foster a sense of belonging for all students? Let's think about that at our school where we're currently working, or perhaps where we're doing our fieldwork experience. Do we create a safe space for all students? Do we give our students the chance to express themselves? Do we advocate for all students? Do we center student voice and take action to address their concern? And if not, can we do better? And how can we do better? I'm going to share an additional video with you.
I'm from Haiti and Nigeria. I'm like three things, like I'm Dominican, Puerto Rican, and black. I'm biracial. I have an African-American father and an Irish-American mom.
My name's Lamine. I'm Muslim.
I'm Indian, British, Scottish, and American.
My parents are from Venezuela, and I was sharing like one of the foods that we eat, and then I got made fun of. They were like, "What is that? Ew. Oh, ew, what is that?" And like I cried because I felt like, oh, there's something wrong where I'm from. Like maybe like it's bad. Like I'm different.
I am an African-American adopted girl, only child, and I live with my two dads.
I remember when I was younger, I went with my family to a restaurant, and they made us pay in advance just in case we didn't pay afterwards, and that was kind of upsetting.
You start to notice that people are different, and you have comments, they might be racist or they might not be, but by the time you get older, you know that it is racist and you should stop.
I feel a little scared about if I, just walk down the street, cops might just think I'm doing something bad, and then if I try to explain to them, they won't listen and then just start beating me up and doing terrible things to me.
I think there's this anxiety that kind of comes with being biracial, that kind of eats away at you, almost like you have to prove yourself that you're one or the other. For example, I hear the phrase, "You're not black," all the time.
People sometimes think that I'm supposed to talk ghetto or whatever that is.
Oh, she's uneducated because she's African American.
Because I'm Hispanic or Latino, I can't have a lot of money.
Just this weekend, I went with my friend to Urban Outfitters, and we were shopping, and I really wanted to try on this dress, and then this lady that was just there, she was kind of watching me, and I'm just I'm not gonna steal it or anything.
I think white privilege is the idea that in your everyday life you're getting treated differently and sometimes with more respect, or people just trust you more, or they have certain expectations of you, like you might be smarter or you might be wealthier because you're white. It makes me feel guilty sometimes, even though it's not my fault. I feel guilty for having a privilege that I don't deserve.
If I was ever the mayor or something that controls the policeman, I would want to go out and look in the neighborhoods where there are people that's very friendly so you can pick them instead of these guys that's just doing all this training. It's better to pick people that's more minded with the community than to just pick some new guy and get on the street. It's just not gonna work out.
We have these kids from, they're Ecuadorian, and they get made fun of because they look Mexican. And they get told on a daily basis, "Oh, you like tacos? Oh, you like churros? How come I saw your mom on the corner selling ices?" Like, I feel bad for them personally, because I'm like, wow, like, they're not, and like, even though they tell them I'm not Mexican, I'm Ecuadorian, they still get teased.
Thanks very much for joining me. Tonight we're going to do a bad news, good news routine. So stay with me. We start off with the bad news, which is pretty bad, but we are going to
Our next video will be on microaggressions from teens.
Oh, you're so pretty for a black girl.
Oh, she has a Jew nose.
Oh, your hair would look so good if it was straight.
Jews are so cheap. Why are you so cheap?
Do you speak good English?
How are you an Iraqi Jew?
I think the person saying microaggression kind of doesn't really think about it.
This person who said it was my friend, and like I was astonished that they would like say something like that.
You don't want to make a big deal about it, but then it's also like you just said something that offended me, so I feel like I should speak up.
Because they're micro, because they're very subtle, they're small, you feel like you don't have a reason to be upset. You're overreacting, and people even can make you feel that way when you bring it up.
They're like, oh, you can't take a joke. You're making too big of a deal of this. Why are you overreacting?
Don't take it so seriously. It was just a joke. Chill out.
Say like, oh no, I actually love black people. I love people of color. Like, they try to just minimize the situation. If someone feels hurt by a microaggression, it shouldn't just be pushed to the side.
It definitely has negative impacts and like leads to people disliking who they actually are. Those kinds of subtle offensive comments can build up over time, and they can have like a deep psychological effect, and you know, they can make you feel bad and they can make you doubt yourself.
We try to just use jokes to like make things less awkward or like ease social experiences, but it is important because you need to like be aware of what you're saying and like who you're speaking to.
Think of what you say and how it can affect the person you're saying it to.
All right, so after we watched these videos, I am wondering, do we create a safe space for all of our students? Do we give our students the chance to express themselves? You know, are they hearing these microaggressions, and are people downplaying them and making them feel uncomfortable? So we heard it from our students. Imagine if one of these, from the videos, if this was one of our students, how would we feel? Chances are some of us would have felt the same way that the students discussed in the videos. So No Place for Hate is a website that provides anti-bullying programs for Anti-Defamation League, from the Anti-Defamation League. This program is student-centered, and it can assist in amplifying the student voice. And it does this by giving you the tools to build a program to address the needs of your students and of your school community. So this is just another resource for us during this process. So why is all of this work essential? It's important because we have the ethical responsibility as school counselors to advocate for all students and their needs. The findings from the 2021 ABES survey that was administered by the CDC revealed that the populations that experienced inequities before the pandemic are now at a higher risk for mental concerns such as suicide, substance abuse, and racism. them. These inequities already existed, but the pandemic only exacerbated them. More than one-third of all U.S. high school students felt that they had been treated badly or unfairly at schools because of their race or their ethnicity. And students who reported racism were also more likely to experience poor mental health. So this is one of the reasons why it's important for us to continuously make sure that all of our students are getting what they need. Again, as we know, we won't know what all of our students' specific needs are. It's our responsibility to educate ourselves on how best to serve them. And when working with our diverse populations, we have to be cognizant of all the equities that they may be facing and work to address them better to serve our students. Okay, here's some best practices. We can engage in self-reflection that helps us to constantly check ourselves and our biases, making us aware of them. Sometimes they're very unconscious, and so this is not something that you're a bad person or that you feel. It's just about being able to advocate better for your students and to recognize that you have this unconscious bias, right? We have to admit them. We have to acknowledge them and recognize that we're not bad people because we have them. And when we recognize that we're not bad people, we're more able to face them and we can move forward in helping people. We need to demonstrate cultural humility by being mindful of how we approach our work. And if we're an outsider, by intentionally listening to others from diverse backgrounds and also not assuming two African Americans can come from two separate environments, and so therefore they shouldn't be treated the same. Likewise, from the Latino X community. Everybody can be from the same general geographical location, but have different experiences. So it's important that we don't say a one size fits all as we're talking about these minority groups, but that we are aware and understand and ask questions. Don't assume that because you had a previous Latino X student that was their experience. And so therefore, this is the next Latino X's experience, right? We're not experts in this area. And so we have to acknowledge that and just continuously educate ourselves and use the opportunity to learn from one another. We need to cultivate a culturally competent by seeking professional development and immersing ourselves in diverse cultural experiences. And we need to seek professional development opportunities, and that this work is constant and that it's evolving, and we have to continuously learn and unlearn information. We need to analyze data to identify equities that exist within our communities, our schools, our academics, our attendance. As school counselors, we need to understand how important data is to help advocate for our positions, and this is no different. We need to familiarize ourselves with running data reports, pulling data to show where and if inequities exist. And does our enrollment of schools in advanced courses correlate to our total population? So we need to review our discipline data and see if that's disproportionate. We need to advocate for change in school policy and procedures that target certain groups of students. Once we become familiar with the data, we can talk to our administrators and discuss our findings. Are there policies that target certain groups and what can be done to change that? And are there dress code policies that should be addressed? We need to establish safe places for our students to share their thoughts, concerns, and ideas. And then we need to develop effective school family community partnerships so that we have a network of individuals and resources that are available and accessible to all of our students. We have to reach out to our community organizations that work with families, such as our churches and community centers. And then we also need to reach out to our families during times of the day when they're available and in languages that they understand. We need to foster genuine relationships with our students and families families by making intentional efforts to learn about their diverse values and beliefs and correct pronunciation of their names. We need to elevate our voices to have courageous conversations with others in effort to interrupt and dismantle biases, racism, and discrimination. When you have a conversation with your coworker and you disagree, it's just presenting a perspective. You're not trying to get them to accept your perspective at that moment. But what we are trying to do is get them to see a different perspective. And once we're able to see a different perspective, then the learning begins. They may not accept it at that moment, but presenting it and getting them to see that there is a different perspective is most important. We need to create a network of diverse individuals with whom we can consult to ensure that you're thinking and acting in the best interest of all of the diverse students. So, culturally responsive school counseling is not an add on or something more to do. It should be how we do, you know? So, we're looking at gathering this information to see if we are doing what we need to do for our specific groups of students. So here's some tips to get started. Parent meetings could be scheduled at times that best suit working families, reaching out to local churches and community partners for assistance to learn more about the school community, reaching out to members of the National Pan-Hellenic Council for multicultural organizations, taking time to learn the needs of our community by not making assumptions or but working with the community, sending newsletters home and in Spanish and English or whatever is the primary language for your area. Ensuring that you have speakers that are diverse and that you are representing all of your populations. And then hosting FAFSA nights in English and Spanish and at local churches, and so that people come from diverse experiences, and they're not aware of the financial responsibilities and how much it costs to go to college. So it's important for us to be able to educate all of the parents on the process so that they're aware of and their children are able to go to college. And then just don't give up because our students need us and it's important for us to continue with that. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time with this assignment and I look forward to you. And please be sure to review the video for week 6. Thank you.